It is time.
Hello. Welcome to another episode of Lunchin with Lisa. I'm so glad for everybody who's tuning in. Remind everybody now, take a quick minute and make sure everybody's tuned in. The show starts every Thursday, 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I'm excited about tonight's show. I think we have a very inspirational story that I think everyone should hear and know about. And our guest is just fabulous. But before we get started, I want to give you a background on some things that I'm doing this month so you all can tune in. If you're not doing anything this weekend, February 20th, Sharon Parker is having an event. It's her 8th annual Roses Leading Within conference. And please attend this conference. I mean, if you don't have to be a history buff, but if you want to know more about where you came from, you want to know and network with other people, professionals, youth. This conference is definitely a place where you want to be to learn more about who you are, where you came from, and just a lot about our history. So I will be moderating that conference this Saturday. So please go register now. It is not too late. And also next Saturday, February 27th, I will be a speaker at a conference of visionary. The name of that conference is Favor is Fair. So we're going to be talking about some things that, you need to, y'all know what y'all need to be doing on Saturday. You shouldn't be out in them streets, so you need to be in these conferences and grabbing your seat there. So I'm hoping to see you on February 20th and 27th because I think you're going to get some great nuggets. So now, someone told me, I'll tell you who told me later, but someone told me that today was National Wine Day, and I must have been slipping. So while we getting things started, y'all need to go grab yourself some wine and just chill out and relax. Because this is going to be a great show. I'm excited. So let me introduce you to our guest. And then we're going to get into it. Now I'm going to give you a little bit of information about her, but I'm going to let her kind of tell you. She's better at telling this story, of course, than me. But I want to give you some background on, who you're actually going to get ready to talk to. So as an unidentified missing person, S. Monique Smith's life path has provided her with the opportunity to provide awareness, help, and a voice for missing and exploited persons. Called to this path from a young age, Monique knew that she had to do for the people like her. She had to do for the people like her in this world. Her mission to help her community is rooted in personal tragedy. Her childhood was marked by serious abuse, but she didn't realize the true nature of her story until later in her early 30s, when a local municipal application revealed inconsistencies in her documentation and ultimately led her to the revelation that the woman she had long believed to be her birth mother was not. After years of personal evolution and healing, S. Monique Smith has overcome many trials and tribulations to become the survivor she is today. Now, Monique is passionate and dedicated to her mission and is most known for her work with the Center for Missing and Exploited Children, the Felicia Barnes case, and as well as her launch of known as Monique First Responders. One of her goals is to make sure that people have accurate information that can prevent child abductions and increase the chances that missing children will be found. Monique Smith hosted Maryland's first annual Missing Persons Day on May 5th, 2018, alongside NAMUS, I hope I'm saying that right, a National Unidentified Persons Data Source, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and the Maryland Human Trafficking Task Force. She also works to support efforts of nonprofit and grassroots organizations who reach out to children at risk of running away, abduction, or trafficking, such such as through working with the Angels of Addiction Street Outreach Ministry and Loving Arms LLC. An activist, Smith Person continues to activate for heightened awareness around providing safe environments for children. Founded in 2013, known as Monique's mission is to continue to spread awareness about missing children, whether minors or adults, as well as provide educational and resources to end child abduction. Welcome to Luncheon with Lisa. We are so happy to have you.
Woo! Thank you so much, Lisa. I am so excited to be here. First of all, I don't know why I was about to cry as you was reading my bio.
Oh my God. Well, it's
And
powerful.
no, you know what? It's the fact that you reached out to me in one of the most important months, and it's really all year long. Black history is it's every single day, but the whole point of legacy
Mm-hmm.
and having something, and just honoring it yourself is just so monumental. It means a lot. Like, so that's why I guess I was emotional, because you can do a lot and people will brag about what they've done, all the little accolades when you're reading your bio. And but the work that I saw, listening to you read it, I kind of went back through every single, like, I have
Right.
done a lot. Like, I have stuck
Yes.
to my commitment. Some people are born with a silver spoon in their mouth. So the Black history for them, was the empowerment because it came with their name. Martin Luther
Right.
King, you hear that name and you see what his children were able to do. And now there's a museum, there's monuments all over the place based on his work, and his name meant something. And that was my mission and my goal as a person,
Right.
that my legacy, we're all, it's out here for all of us, and for
Absolutely.
it to be taken, manipulated, abused, and it happens so many times. I mean, human trafficking, child abduction, in that whole arena, it's a 150 billion, I did not say million, $150 billion industry. And just to know that as I was looking for myself, Michelle Obama was becoming, I was finding Monique, but to be
Right.
able to use those very resources that was available to me, to try to find out how old I was, what is my real name, when is my birthday, will I ever acquire a birth certificate, what's going to happen with my children. Like, I have 4 children, and without
Right.
a birth certificate, you don't get a death certificate. So thank you for reading the bio, because
Oh
that bio
no.
is about the work, the mission
Yes.
of the work.
And it shows in there, we've shared platforms before, and I've heard bits and pieces of the story. So I was excited about this, and this was very intentional because this month on Luncheon with Lisa is kind of like Love Month. And each week I have dedicated to a different form of love. So the first week was self-love. And then that last week, because it was right before Valentine's Day, was romantic love. But this was family love. And I thought about you and just your journey. And it wasn't about, it wasn't specifics, but it was like, who could speak in my mind? Who could speak better to just a journey of searching for family, knowing family, not knowing family, all of that was you. And I know we had talked previously, and I was like, I just think this is a perfect time for her. And of course, like you said, in the middle of Black History Month, it's like these are the things that matter. Your story is something that I felt like you said about empowerment. Yours was more inspiration, because it was like, look, yeah, I mean, I saw some of the videos along the way where you were searching and finding, and it was amazing the strength that it takes to not only just go through that, but to share that story, share your journey, and the things that it has brought you to. is yeah, you're gonna tell it better than me, but I'm so excited. And we're actually I will give them a little, not right now because you all need to just pay attention to some things, but we're gonna give away I Am the Ancestor, which is one of Monique's. This is one of her books. I have one for myself because I'm not giving mine away. But we have one that we're going to give away. But later on in the show, we'll give it away. But yeah, tell us a little bit about your journey and all you've gone through, because it's been so much. It's like we would have to do part 2 to get, just get all of the journey in.
Well, I want to piggyback on what you just shared about, you selecting family, and family, it means the world to me. I mean, as a child, I think I didn't want to be an attorney. I didn't want to be a physician growing up. I wanted to be a mom. Like I had a goal. I wanted 6 to 8 children. I mean, I didn't know why. And this was probably in kindergarten. I knew that I wanted to be a mother. Unfortunately, I didn't know the whole piece about being a wife first. Which,
Right.
I wasn't raised right, but it was something in my spirit as a young person. So I wanted to go back to that piece, which was so important to me. But as things were happening, I was never really so connected to the individuals who I was raised around, and I just as a child, I just couldn't put my finger on it, and it was alarming. It bothered me, and it was just something in my internal spirit that always led me to just be, like, feel more than just in a family environment and just like exist, but to be, it meant a lot. And again, I am one of the products that when you say you weren't born with a silver spoon, you're not going to inherit anything. Your name has no substance and no value, and it was just oddly strange that I was just given that energy inside my soul to know that at every single opportunity, you should be the silver lining around the dark cloud. You can control that narrative. And I did it as a child. Like I there were things that I would see around me, like all of my classmates and friends, they had family, the neighbors, they were always playing with them, buying them things, taking them to nice places. They would come back from vacation, and that just wasn't happening for me. But I used my imagination, crayons, markers, and I just started creating that life that I wanted to envision in between the abuse, so you almost had to throw out and reflect something totally different. And I was glad, because that creativity is what helped me to become like the nice person, the kind person. I think it was my, not that generational curse to bring it with me where I'm going to abuse my children. It's just that as these things were happening to me, it happened over here. I'm going back to my crayons. I'm going back to my coloring book. I'm going back to my markers. And I'm going to continue to create the life that I want to feel, just like the ones we were seeing on television. Like I was watching, the Cosbys and Gilligan's Island, whatever, all those episodes. I saw the fun, the zeal, the life, and I kept saying, why isn't it happening in here? So how do I get this? And anything that excited me is what I gravitated towards. So I was very grateful for that. But then as time started going a little further, I was realizing it was always some type of adversity. I was stopped from going to the Marines. I was stopped to be able to get my driver's.
Something was blocking you.
Everything was blocking me, and I don't care what I did around, telling family. No one motivated me. No one grabbed hold of me and said, "Here, let me help you." No one mentored me. Like it was just the wildest things, and I would find things that would be relatively easy and take it back to individuals and say, "Hey, can you help me with this? Oh, not right now. That's important. That's not important. How can you help me get this?" And that was really. It didn't drain me. It just bothered me. And now that I look back, it just kind of made it clear to what was going on. Like I said, at the time, you got to remember, like when you haven't read the book yet, but it was early on. So once everything started happening later in life, everything, the tick, 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 tick process in my mind was just I saw it, but I didn't see it. You know, if you're arguing
Right.
with your relative, you know, I'm gonna tell your mother, I'm gonna tell your mother, give me my toy, give me your toy. I'm gonna tell, you know, well, she's not your mother anyway. So,
Okay.
you know, when you're 9 and 10 and 11 and you hear that, you know, you're kids. But
Right.
when I became an adult, and I'm thinking to myself, it wasn't about the child. What adults were having conversations around that child for them to say it to me? Now, here's the bigger piece when I work with missing children and human trafficking and identifiers.
Okay.
Adults, these are the things that the godparents should be seeing, aunts and uncles should be seeing. Those are the individuals who can identify these things and alert authorities. Something was going on right in front of everyone's face and they didn't see
Right.
it.
Right.
They just did not see it. It was
Right.
just really that bad, you know. And then of course time passed, you know, the abuse
Or people
increased.
don't want to. The other part of that is people don't want to see it. I think, a lot of times they, whatever, they don't want to deal with the repercussions or what's going to happen next. So they just kind of turn a blind eye or
They turned it
pretend
down.
that it's not. Denial is a beast. I've said that forever.
Yeah.
Denial is a beast.
Yeah. Well, I did a women's leadership conference last year, and we talked about resiliency and how you're going to make it through. And I always tell parents, teach your kids to tell. You
Mm.
know, you got to have that straight talk conversation with them. If you feel an uncle, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a teacher is inappropriately touching you, you have to teach your children. The conversations that I had when my 14-year-old daughter, I had to have when she was 8. Whereas my
Mhm.
oldest daughter, it was okay at 14. But
Okay.
because the amount of abuse that's happening now, you kind of you have to force yourself to have that very
Right.
uncomfortable conversation at an early age. You have to teach them to tell. Now back to what you were saying about the adults, they're paralyzed. Some people are
Mhm.
shocked. You know,
Yeah.
it's fear. Like you said, what's going to happen if I do? Am I going to have to testify? Am I going to have to be a
Yes.
witness? Am I going to have to write a statement? I'm going to go to jail. You know, I could hear all of these things going on at that
Absolutely.
particular time, and it's happening today. It's
Well, and I've
actually
experienced,
happening.
I know exactly what you're talking about because I do share in another co-author book that I did. I shared that, and I held it for 40 some years, but that, in my neighborhood, there was a neighbor who, touched me. But I talked myself, and I think I was 11. And I never told anybody because I did all of those things in my head. First of all, I was like, look, I know it's not my fault. My parents taught me well.
Right.
I didn't do this to myself, but let me just stay away. But I also envisioned, I will say, I envisioned my mother just, yeah, he wouldn't be here anymore. So, I was thinking of all those things at 11, like, what is my mother going to do? She is going to, and that's going to disrupt everything. And I felt like, okay, I'm smart enough to know not to, go to the friend's house or whatever it was anymore. But I held it till 40 something. And then when I wrote the book, when I wrote the chapter is when I said, okay, I have to tell my mom. And so she didn't find out until I wrote it. And then she shared with me that she had experienced something as a young child.
Wow.
So when people ask you, why didn't you tell? And there were reasons why I didn't, but now I'm like, I don't know. It's like that catch-22 where I didn't tell, but
Yeah.
now I understand why I should. But I do
Right.
understand why people make that decision. And I kind of thought like I'm not a Lifetime. You see Lifetime and you see those movies, and I'm thinking it wasn't that dramatic. It was kind of like, I'm good. I'm okay. I've gotten through it. But it wasn't that it disappeared. It was just that I kind of pushed it down and felt like I had control over it. But
Right.
it pops up on you, you
And it
know?
does, and luckily, a lot of people can take it and move on. They know that it happened and move on. Unfortunately, that type of abuse will hinder someone's ability to grow,
That's true.
to have a relationship later on in life with their counterparty. You know, be it that it's male and female. Boys are being molested and abducted and trafficked more now than girls are because the demand has shifted. So it's very unfortunate that. so many individuals have been abused and just struggle. They struggle internally and just mentally with how to release that, like that stress. How is it
Yeah.
going to impact their life? Um, Additional pain. Some people are threatened, their lives are threatened,
Well, that's
as
true.
if they would, tell someone. So it's so many causes, and that's why I always tell people, teach them to tell. It is as adults. When people don't believe you, the biggest thing of all of the survivors that I've spoken with, people do not believe them. How many stories have you
Mm,
heard of young girls telling their parents, my mother didn't even believe me, and I was telling her my uncle was, or her
right.
boyfriend was. Victims are not always, believe you. Call the authorities.
That's true.
Well, he is your husband. How could he rape you? He is your boyfriend. You've been with him for 5 years. What do you mean he's forcing you to sleep with other men? So unfortunately, I always tell people, tell someone else and tell someone else and tell someone else. Tell until someone of those individuals are
Make the
brave
move.
enough to say,
Right.
right, they're going to be brave enough to say, you know what, this ends today because it ends with me. And
Right.
they'll go to the authorities, or they'll go with you to a hospital, to have you checked out. That's what you want to do. Don't ever feel like you should say, well, I told my girlfriend, I told my boss, I told my neighbor, and they just didn't believe me. They didn't listen.
And that's a
Because
real
they,
fear that nobody
oh
will
yeah,
believe you. And I
oh
think
yeah,
that's what deters people from saying something, because they're just kind of like, that's going to be more stress, more, that's almost like that's kicking you while you're down. So something's happening to me. And now I know when I share it with somebody, they're not going to believe me. So I got to prove it to them before I can even tell the next person.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And
I can
that's
see
that's
how
a
that
lot.
can be stressful. So what did
Yeah.
you how because what you did with yours was you not only got through some things, but you actually took that energy and that positive energy that you always knew, look, this is what I'm supposed to be experiencing. This is what's supposed to be in my life. And you took that to go on further and start to help other people. And some people just got to work through getting through it themselves, but you took it a step further and now you're helping other people to find that space.
I had to continue to work on myself, and it would leave it in my heart and spirit that every bit of information, it was from the public, taxpayers' dollars. You hear about what's going on with the police department. You'll hear about what's going on with Homeland Security. If we're not using what's out there, we just don't even think to go back to the Department of Social Service. We do not think to go back and utilize those resources because they're breaking out sessions now because of the variances. Everything is, we didn't have this experience. Like, I am the first case. Could you imagine going to the National Center of Exploited Children saying, hi,
Wow.
I'm missing, and they're looking like, what? And it took them it took them 2 years. It literally took them 2 years to give me a missing child number. I'm missing child number 128. Can't even say I got two other numbers in my head. 770. So that's my number. So whenever
Well, why
you
did
go
it
to
take
the
2 years?
because I was an adult. I was either 28 or 29. I didn't even
So they
know
had
my
to just
age.
kind of figure out how this happened. How did this happen?
They did not believe me. You got to remember, in this
Wow.
particular time, we have identity theft, we have illegal immigration that's happening every day. We have people coming out of from being incarcerated, trying to
Okay.
get a new identity. So to them, it was almost like it was a hoax. It was somebody looking to, manipulate the database and manipulate the system to get a new ID, and that wasn't the
Okay.
case. It was just really unfortunate. But after I said, you know what, I have some proof for you. I have some proof, concrete documentation. So that's what I took them. I took them the concrete
Okay.
documentation that I had gathered, and I said, now you tell me who I am.
How about that?
Yeah, how about that? So it actually worked, but there was nothing they can do. Now, here's the beauty of what happens with the National Center of Missing Exploited Children. We all know John Wall, so we know how,
Hmm.
unfortunate story with him and his son is that every year they do an intake that revolves once a year. I'm sorry. So if, say for instance, that someone didn't put any information about a missing child in 1970, but so
Hmm.
that's when they first ran it through the entire 70s. Well, someone may not have did anything until like 1985 or 1990. They
Okay.
do it every single year in the event that someone says, you know what, let me go see. I remember this child. I remember my niece. I don't care what nobody says. I remember a cousin. I'm going to find my, just for the sake of my grandmother, just for the sake of my aunt, I'm going to find the child that she gave away, or the kid that, the father said he was going to take because the mother didn't do this right by the child. So that's a great thing with them, that they did it annually, which kept my fake information in their
Right.
database, but it also had my photo of my picture.
Okay.
But that
Okay.
was way back in 1998. In 1998, it was just really, really it was a long journey. So I started volunteering for them. I started raising money for them, talking about the resources at community meetings, boys organization, girls organizations, asking people, do you still look at the missing person flyers when you go into Walmart? So it was just the advocacy. It helped me
Okay.
heal. It
Right.
was a long
Right.
process. It helped me heal. And then the family were out. Like there was nothing that those people could ever say to me that would assist me, help me. It was just, they were clueless, just no support whatsoever. And then I wrote the book. I said, you know what?
Wow.
I have minor children. I said, something happens to me with 4 children. Who's going to lasso and rally around my kids and be their advocates?
Right.
And that's why it's entitled, I Am the Ancestor Before I Die. Because I couldn't tell them, baby, you got good hair because you got Cherokee Indian in you. I couldn't say that your great great great
Yeah,
grandmother
because
went to the
you had to
White House.
open up their history book for them. I mean, you are that history book for them.
Was
Yes.
it? They were walking the path of our lineage being built right in front of them. They just didn't get it.
Right.
They didn't get it. And I didn't understand it. But I was utilizing every single means that I could to actually have something that I created in front of them. Now, mind you, I couldn't go to college. I couldn't pursue a lot of the careers that I wanted to because I didn't have any documentation. But real estate investing was easy. You didn't have to have a birth certificate to buy properties. So
Oh,
instead
that's
of
true.
so
Right.
entrepreneurship became, the best thing ever for me to survive, to raise my kids without being threatened of not having identity to get the jobs that I really wanted. And
Well, let
that
me ask
started.
you a question. Somebody
Yeah.
actually had asked, it was a question that said, have you forgiven those who abused you? Was that part of your healing process when you started to move forward? Because I'm sure it took time, and it was like maybe a little forgiveness here, maybe a little there, but I could imagine that that's maybe even an ongoing thing, because your journey has been so long.
It has been so long. So it took me a while, and I used to always say, I'm going to hell, because I know that you have to forgive. And I would
Okay.
not forgive because, see, I was molested at 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way up until 18.
Mm,
Physically, sexually, mentally abused. So it was a lot. So once I was free, I was free. So
okay.
I didn't have to care and nurture, befriend, stay a part of. So I had a choice. I
Okay.
was, building who I was, my own self-esteem, my own identity. It took me later in life for the forgiveness piece. It took
Okay.
me right. I was well into probably in my 40s.
I could
Uh,
imagine.
yeah, I was in my
Yeah.
40s when or you forgive, and like they say, you don't forget. Because I'm
Or you
scarred for
think
life.
you forgetting. You
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. You think you forgiven because you get to a comfortable place where you're like, okay, because you were
yeah,
still moving forward. You were still doing things, you were still feeding
yeah,
into you. So you probably didn't even deal with that part of it. And then, when it comes, it's like I think sometimes forgiveness comes in stages. It's not like,
yeah.
all of a sudden everything is forgiven. No, I have to come back and revisit this. So I could
Yeah.
imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a point to prove. I had, I had a point to prove to myself. It was me, all or nothing. I had no other
Hmm.
choice. I basically had no other choice. It was either I was going to be the next homeless victim. Where else was I going to go? No mother, no father, no sisters, no brothers, no aunts, no uncles, no cousins. Where was I going to go?
Wow.
So it was left up to me, and I used absolutely everything. I even used the fake identity that I lived under, because I'm still living under S. Monique Smith. That is not legally my name. So that's a whole nother story, but we're still into this
Right.
process of what happened with the DNA. Yeah.
So what does it do for you? Because I know that part of your healing is the way you're giving back, the way you're helping other people. So what has that done for you to make you, because some people would watch you move and watch the things you do and never even imagine that this is your journey. The strength that you have had to even show your children, because you are kind of the beginning for them, where you were mentioning that there no uncles, no aunts, no, so you're it. And that's a lot. That's a lot.
You sure you didn't read the book? Because I swear I read
I
that.
did,
I wrote that in the chat. And that was
I
it.
didn't
I
yet, but
felt
I'm
that I had to.
excited.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I had to. That's the one thing that I had to give my children. I had to be their everything. I couldn't be. I was attempting to be, because you cannot be
Right.
someone's grandmother, grandfather. You cannot be. But I just had to be the best representation to direct them as best I could. I had to
A
be their
family.
advocate and to build that
Right.
family. And when it all came crumbling down, I literally had to sit them down and tell them myself, because I said, if I was to die today, if who's going to tell my story? Who's going to
Mm,
tell them? It's going to be swept under the rug, like this whole entire life of a lie that I've lived, and that's not going to work. So I'm grateful for the book. The book has raised well over $70,000, have been all donated to charities, which I'm proud of. And again, this is something
absolutely.
that they'll see. I self-published the book. Those are my hands on the book. I created the title. I went into the bookstores and looked at how thick I wanted the book, how many words I wanted to have in the book. And if I die today, that is a legacy piece to them. They will get royalties from this for the rest of their life, into my
That's
grandkids.
what I'm look. And what you know what though, when you were explaining about the creativity and the crayons and the things at a young age, that was preparing you for doing this book. So you have all the just everything you just listed right there. I mean, there's some people who are putting out books that don't even think along those lines, but I think you were already preparing for that at a young age. You This was going to come to use at some point. That's amazing. And look, I'm laughing at the fact that you said, "Did you read this book?" But I mean, the way when you were talking and sharing, I was just like, you are the definition of family to them. So I mean, and that's a lot. Which this is what we're gonna do is have a Black History moment for Lisa all month long. I've been doing a Black History moment for the month of February. So I wanted to actually, and if this was in you kind of motivated this because sometimes we think of Black History Month as those who are not with us anymore. And that's not necessarily true. So I said, okay, so I have you on the show. So let's stay with that flow. And there's someone else that's in our midst that's, around us all the time. And we never think about the people that we interact with as Black history, but we're all part of history. Believe me,
Yes.
2020 made all of us
Yeah.
history, whether we wanted to be or not. But let's have a Black History moment with Luncheon with Lisa, and then we'll come back and have some more conversation.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Welcome to another Luncheon with Lisa Black History Moment. Tonight we honor Sylvia Traymore Morrison. If you all don't know her, she's America's first African American female impressionist in the history of this country. Sylvia Traymore Morrison is one of the first solo artists to tour and open for Whitney Houston in over 20 major U.S. cities. Morrison's career in Hollywood is legendary. For more information on how she's been a trailblazer in the world of comedy and on stages everywhere, please visit her website at www.sylviaohyeah.com. And this is another Luncheon with Lisa Black History Moment. So welcome back. I think you know Sylvia, but Sylvia is just a living legend. She has so much history with her. You have so much history, but we got to start listening to those people who are
Yeah.
actually here with us, where we don't even have to go read a book. We can go have a one-on-one conversation and learn so much about history. And I mean, you have gained so much about how this works with human trafficking and being abducted and things like that. You've learned so much through trying to heal through your own situation. I could imagine all the things so tell us a little bit about, now you said you did the book, but what other things have been happening or, have occurred through this journey?
Well, it was bizarre that it almost 20 years had passed, and it was weird because I talk all the time about family, and my daughter, my oldest one, said, "Mom, what's next?" I said, "Well, nothing's happened. Nothing's happened. I've told the world that all missing children aren't dead. I wrote the book. I've gone on, speaking engagements. Good Morning America. I've been on the African American paper. It's just I don't know what to do, but I kept at it. I just continued to press forward. By that time, the DNA started coming out with 23andMe and Ancestries.com, the NamUs organization. So my DNA is in with the deceased DNA of the long lost for 30, 40, 50 years. So I wanted to make sure that I did absolutely everything. So I paused from the book to go back into diving to make sure that I was keeping up with the lineage. This is, again, almost like the family tree that you build. And I was getting minimal hits in Ancestry. So people say, "Oh, you got to get an Ancestry. But if everyone's not in Ancestry,
that's true,
you're not going to get a ping." So people say, "Oh, that, you can definitely connect with your family. You'll be able to find your mother. You'll find your dad." No, that was not happening. 3-4 years, that was not happening. So I said, you know what? I was sending my book to Oprah, Tyler Perry, Ellen. It was getting very expensive. I had publishing companies and publicists that was helping me pitch the story, send the story out, and it was just not moving. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to wait for them to do a story of hope and perseverance. I'm not going to do a story to let everyone know that, never to give up. You mean something. You make yourself, put yourself out there. So I wound up doing a campaign documentary, The Longest Living Jane Doe. Yeah, the Salvation Army has been around since the 1800s. And when I went to them back in 1996, they said, "Oh my God, you're a living Jane Doe. We specialize in homeless people. We specialize in runaways and unidentified since the 1800s, and you will not be able to be identified because you have we have to have something to go on. Like, we have to have something to go on." So that's what I dubbed the movie on, being the longest living Jane Doe. I even tried to get into the Guinness Book of World Record because at the end of the day, I wanted so much hope for the people who are still looking for their loved ones. Like I said, we have 100,000 people go reported missing just, every single day. Like every single day, there's someone being reported missing. That is a senior alert, an Amber Alert, a runaway, someone just decided to leave on their own will. That database is so huge. But to give the families, and most importantly, the agencies, there are people out there that are retired detectives, law enforcement agents, volunteers who have a passion for helping, that are searching for it. And when they see me, it's that new energy. Like, I have this case that I have not, and I just know that there's a clue in this box. There's a clue inside this briefcase. There's a clue in this envelope. I'm going to reunite that. And hearing your story, it was just a burst of new energy. And I was grateful to even be able to bring that to them, and just to see me and
you're
say
walking
that
hope for a lot of people.
That was the key. So the documentary premiered in Baltimore in 2019. It did good. I've been on tour, but of course now COVID has hit. Yeah, so I'm excited. And the proceeds still goes towards the charity. So I'm not really interested in doing the selling of the CD. I love the fact of the interaction. I like the fact that I get to control what happens. And then, again, that's something else I'll be able to pass to my children. Yes, I am navigating this whole theater, the movie screen.
You're doing it. You are doing it.
The filming industry. It's bizarre, but it's the same thing that I had to do the book. And then I also created workbooks, for parents. Yeah, these have been out since 2016. So when I go to Mom and Me and Chat and Choose and Dad, Dad and Donuts, I'll talk about, the straight talk that you have to have for preventative measures.
Yeah, well, and this is a good time for that talk. I mean, I know before COVID hit, it was starting to be heightened about, human trafficking, and, we were on a higher alert. It's always been going on, but people just weren't, it wasn't like first priority. But I know, like right before COVID, it seems like we were on extra alert about, stopping at the gas station, and there's just things going around. And then when COVID came, we kind of got distracted and started to deal with other things. And part of my thought process when I was thinking about you too was, okay, this is still going on. Don't forget, this is all of that is still happening. It's just that COVID is on top of it. It's not like it's switched out. So yeah, so what you're talking about is something that should be ongoing. Don't ever forget. Always be careful. Always, because we get comfortable.
And just like how everything is transitioning in the world, remember before you had a phone that was a remote dial-up rotary phone versus the cell phone. So in child abduction or runaways or human trafficking, you always had the white van. Everyone was scared of the guy down the street, or somebody driving around the community. This is the new white van. This is the cell phone. They can lure your kids out of the parental abductions. It happens that way. Someone pretending to be someone else under a fake identity on social media. So it's the control of the parent and the caregiver to find the appropriate app. If you have an iPhone, if you have an Android, have the conversation, find ways to ping their phones. And because you're having that conversation, it gives them the mindset to do less. They may not wander off as much because you're having that conversation. Pornography,
you just kind of bring it to their psyche. So it's like, even without thinking about it, you're thinking about it. You're watching. And it's funny because when you start thinking about it, then you notice more things. And when you think about it more, then you notice more things. Because I know I have had moments when I thought about, oh my goodness, there were situations that really could have been very different because I wasn't paying attention. And now that I am paying attention, you think about all the times that you weren't, and but for the grace of God, you didn't get into a situation, but how easy it can happen, how easy. And it's really easy for little people. I see, when you used to go to the store and see little people run off, and it doesn't take but a second.
Run off will be alone.
Yeah. I have watched children like kind of just sway away from their parents, not too far, but enough to notice that they were closer to other people than their parents. And, just wanted to snatch them and say, please, please go back. But at the same time, I was like, okay, be careful, Lisa, because then they're going to think you trying to take the child, because everybody's on high alert or, oh my goodness, but it doesn't kick in all the time. But I'm so fascinated. And I've heard you tell, parts and pieces of your story. Also, so you share when I thought about family, because you were reunited with family at times, and you've gone through some things like that. So share us a little bit about that.
Well, there's a underground world that is not always as bad. So there's the black web, and the black web, of course, is the pornography and the illegal drugs and weapons. On the other side, there are people who are just at home on their phones volunteering, period, point blank. So they have Missing Children's International, Missing Persons International, human trafficking organizations, Denamus organizations, and you just go around and you see posters that are posted through law enforcement agency or community organization, and you share the information out. But you've done it for so long, you start connecting the dots. And they become the individuals who are supporting with the tips, which is really key. So ironically, over the 20 years that I've been talking, then Income social media, people have been following me in the story for forever. So the great part about it was in 2019, a young lady inboxed me, which happens a lot. And she says, I think this is a kid that it could be you. And, she went missing. She's in North Carolina. Her name is Phyllis Powell. She's still missing. That's why I honor her name and say it as much as possible. Phyllis Powell is missing. And I said, well, it would probably make me about 65. So I don't think that's me, unless I That's like I got the Angela Bassett,
Right.
DNA. You know, I said I don't think it's me, but I notified the caseworker on my case, and she said, "Well, it's protocol. We have to put every single tip in." So they called the DNA specialist and said, "We're going to call the sheriff, but don't call the family because we don't want to do a false."
Okay.
Hey, we have a possible link between our Jane Doe and Phyllis Powell in the Carolinas. And so they did the DNA. And so the next morning she comes back and she goes, "Oh, no, it's not it. And I said, I kind of figured it because I didn't think I was 65. So it was,
Right.
but I was so grateful. And it shows how easy those agencies really work together with the advancement that we've made from just looking at a picture versus the
Right.
picture and the DNA combined into the database, and that's called Name It, which is the it's in North Carolina. It's a chapter that
Okay.
holds. It says Name Us because we're unidentifiable.
Okay.
So that was a great thing. So after that, it was weird because they reached out to a DNA detective, CC Moore, Nightline News, and it was just really, weird that she reached out to her and she said she called him right back. I was like, wait a minute, I've been calling Oprah and Ellen, and you mean to tell me you get so on the phone and call CC? And so it kind of evolved, and sure enough, lo and behold, she sends the information back. The detective calls me. She goes, we gotta meet up. We gotta talk. And I go, you're making me nervous. I just went through the
Right.
whole nervous thing, and it was just it was a beautiful thing. It was a beautiful thing. So we wound up, they surprised me because it was a woman looking for a baby sister. And our mother had passed away, from my understanding. And it was just weird that it was the unbelievable believable for her, and it was the same thing. So we at the same time on the opposite end was experiencing it. The full interview for that is on because I get emotional thinking about that embrace.
Yes,
Is
I do. Yeah.
WUSA 9. Yeah, WUSA 9, longest living Jane Doe, if anybody wanted to see it.
Yes,
But
and
it
you
was,
all need to really take a look at that. It was a powerful moment.
yeah.
And I catch myself. I mean, I don't know. I just think that those are the kind of stories that we kind of need to, embrace and see more of. Just to, how some people just kind of take, family for granted, and the fact that with all that you have gone through, and still you have had a true understanding of what family is, despite your journey or whatever you've gone through, which is amazing. You could
Thank you.
actually you are a perfect example for your children, because I mean your drive was so strong, your strength was so, huge, that you just kept going. I mean, you're the perfect example of never giving up, and you didn't. I mean, timing is everything, and it wasn't the time till it was the time. And yeah,
And
it's
that's a powerful
powerful.
thing that I try to, like, when I speak at some of the youth organizations or some of the high schools, middle schools. I've done lectures at some of the universities, and I say to them, when you say my mother's a deadbeat, my father ain't no good, they some bums, I ain't gonna never be. I had no one. I had no one. I'm a COO of a construction company. I'm a self-published author several times over. I've did my own documentary. You can do it. I did it with nothing and no one. Of course, the grace of God. Like without He, there is no me. So all that glory definitely goes to Him. And I wasn't even raised in a church environment, church family. But believe you me, I know whose I am. So that's the most
Right,
important. I tell people I had to love myself, and I wanted best for myself. I wanted good for me. I wanted
right,
happy for me. It wasn't given to me. So I had to continue every single day. And that happens to people now in a marriage, in a friendship. And if the company is not for you, it's not for you. But if you know that you're trying to ascertain a goal because you're paying off some debt, getting rid of that mortgage, trying to acquire a new car, you find what makes you happy until you're
absolutely.
in the meantime movement. Like I thrive on that in the meantime. It's not about what I
Mm,
don't have. It's not what because I take these baby steps. You know how people are like, oh, jump, leap. I'm not jumping off nothing. I don't care what Steve Harvey say. I'm not jumping. But every single one of my baby steps, from loving on myself, telling my story, writing the book, collecting the data, doing the documentary, I utilized every resources for the happy ending. Like
Absolutely.
I wanted to control the next chapter, the happy ending. Even if it doesn't, like I'm still to this day working. I still don't have my birth certificate. Like I'm still fighting to even find out like when is my birthday. So it's still a
Wow.
work in progress. And that's just like your life. It's a forever working process. As soon as I get that, it's probably gonna be something else more. The Lord's probably gonna say, girl, you ain't done yet. You're not done
No,
yet.
well, what I was thinking was, I said, because people get so caught up in what they need to motivate them. So, some people believe, and you're the example of, well, no, not necessarily, because if people believe, well, I don't have my family to back me up, so I can't do this. There's no such thing. I don't have, whatever it
My
is. I don't
family.
have kids. I'm not married, or I'm
Mhm.
single, or whatever it is. Those are always excuses on why you can't do whatever it is that you're trying to
Yeah.
do. And you actually have, like, I mean, you ain't even chipping at those walls. You just
Yeah.
like, okay, well, let me throw this brick over there because that's no good. I mean, there's nothing to stop you. You don't need, it's nice to have if it's a good thing. But if
Yeah.
you don't, sometimes not having some of those things is the better motivator, and
Mhm.
it's not like you wish anybody not to have it, but if it's not motivating you in a good way, then you have to keep moving. You can't let those
You have
things
to keep
block you or
moving.
stop you. And you didn't let that happen.
Yeah.
That's why I
And I
thought
tell
this
people
story
that.
was so powerful.
Thank you so much. And that's a big thing. I see people on social media, oh, my family's not supporting me. My friends are not supporting me. No one's there for me. At the end of the day, you're still responsible for your own happiness. You can't get caught up because they're trying to do things in their life or in their world. And it hasn't been easy for me. I've struggled everything. I'm struggling even now. Like I'm struggling again, as I stated before, how to get into the whole filming industry,
Right.
the small film festivals because I could pay plenty of people to do all these, but it's all possibilities. There's no guarantee.
Right.
That's the thing that when you're working with larger agencies and publishing companies, you're doing just as much work, but you're paying someone else, but you're still doing just as much of the
That's
work.
true.
So I actually enjoy that and watching it unfold. I mean, that's going to be yet another piece that I'll be able to leave my children. So, but thank you for that. Thank
And I'm
you.
so excited for you. So what we're going to do, because we're going to come back so that we can make sure everybody knows how to get in touch with you, to really remind them of where to find the articles and the stories and everything on you, because I really think that they need to know we need to know more stories like this, because and you're still in it. So I want them to continue to follow you. So let's have a couple of commercials, and then we're going to come back, and so you all can make sure you get in touch with her and stay in touch with her.
Thank you.
Focusing upon elevating lives is a non-profit organization founded by Darcel and Bernard Collins, developing and preparing a society where all young men and women have a positive self-image and outlook despite the influences of the world and obstacles they may encounter. Love Me Girls Mentoring Program was founded in 2006. We have an annual Mary Diana Scholarship where you can find more information at fuelfornewlife.org/scholarship. All t-shirt profits go to our program, and we accept donations at PayPal at paypal.me/fuel for life. We also have community service events, family events, even college trips. Find us on Instagram and Facebook, as well as our website, fuelfornewlife.org.
Welcome back, everybody. And I did want to mention to you all, because we next week we're actually going to be finishing up for our last week dealing with the month of love, and we're going to talk about community love. So we're having a mentoring group. ILM is I Love Me. Darcel Collins, who's actually on the thread with everybody, but she's bringing the mentoring group to Luncheon with Lisa, and she's there. I love me. That's like, what else can you say? She's teaching these young ladies that you got to love you first, And I think it's a powerful mission to be on. So we're bringing Darcel and some of the ladies. I am also a mentor with the group. So I'm excited about that. So we wanted to give away one of the books before we find out where you all can find more information about what's going on with Monique. So I want you. What can we? What is? I mean, we've talked about a lot of things, but this is usually the hard part for me on how to figure out who to give the book away from. So you come up with something a question or something that you have mentioned that they have to guess, and we'll have to look in the thread and make sure, see who's the first, and they will win a copy of your book.
Okay. All right. So here's a question. Who did I shock first?
Who did she shock first? So you all, I'm gonna give you a couple of minutes while we're actually gonna share some contact information on how you can stay in touch with her, and find out more about what's going on with her and follow her journey. But in the meantime, you all think about that. Who did she shock first, so you can get a copy of her book. So tell us how they can stay in touch with you and connect with you.
Well, I'm on all social media platforms. It's known as Monique, and that's on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. The Facebook is the advocacy work that gets done. So we put tips out. We definitely post missing person flyers, and then you'll see works on if your loved one goes missing, what to do, national hotlines, any event that you need, and we ask people to lock the number in. And of course, my website is knownasmonique.com, and it has details, a couple of other videos. Thank you for putting it up. There it is. I see it, knownasmonique.com. So that's probably that's the best link there.
Wonderful. So we do have an answer. We got an answer that said her children. Was that the answer?
No, that wasn't the answer.
No, that wasn't the answer. Okay, so we need some more guesses. So I know y'all want this book. Look, Cheryl is like, I need to get that book. So who did she shop?
I can give him a hint. Okay. I knocked on the door basically and said, I'm a missing person. And they were shocked. Who was it?
That's a good hint. That's a good hint. So y'all, look, don't scroll back through the message to see if somebody wrote it down. But we're definitely going to give this book to somebody before we get off here. But I have enjoyed talking with you. And I'm hoping this won't be the last time that you come to Lunchin with Lisa, because you are doing some wonderful things that need to continue. And I know sometimes subjects like this kind of get swept under the rug, or people don't put it priority. It's strange how this is not a priority for a lot of people.
Well, we make it a priority. The work that we do, we make it a priority. We have some legislation going on right now in the state of Maryland. We already passed one with Felicia Barnes' law. It's actually a law now. Wonderful. That you don't wait 48 hours like television and 24 hours when you report someone missing in the state of Maryland. The officers take the report immediately and put it in a database. And the one that's in the General Assembly right now is Missing Persons Day. They want to make sure that it's a commemorative day here in the state of Maryland for additional resources and funding that could potentially come our way.
And you did that, right? You started that. Yes, indeed. That is huge. Absolutely. So we got another guest.
Oh, did somebody say?
Missing Children Organization.
Yeah, that's it.
Yes, congratulations.
I'm 120-1298.
That's right. So Cheryl, you are going to be getting a copy of this. I will get this to you. Congratulations. This has been absolutely wonderful. And I'm hoping that you will come back and join us again, and keep us abreast of what's going on, and let me know how we can help to get the word out, because what you're doing needs major exposure. So this platform.
And thank you for creating a platform. You're giving the platform to people to utilize their voice to make the world better. I have so much hope for a better world, and you're making a huge contribution to that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And this platform is always open to you to do exactly what you're doing. So thank you so much. This has been wonderful. And Cheryl gets to get a book. Like I said, I'm not giving away two tonight because one of them belongs to me. It's my book. But yeah, this has been wonderful. Again, I want to remind you all that you all can tune in to Lunchin with Lisa every Thursday, 7 to 8 Eastern Standard Time. I will remind you that on Fridays, I partner with GMAP broadcasting network, so they will actually run the show on Fridays at 7 o'clock. The same time, they're out of Chicago, but we partner, so you can catch it tomorrow, or you can come back and watch it. We'll be sharing it and continuing to spread the word. So thank you so much for tuning in. I have enjoyed this conversation, and we're gonna do this again.
I'm ready.
We're gonna do this again because you're gonna have some major stuff coming up, and we need to let people know where to check you out. So you will be back.
Thank you, darling. Have a good one, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for attending too.
Absolutely. Thank you, Cheryl and Sharon. And I think there's a lot of people dipped in. Darcel, Michi, there's thank you so much, Kelly. We had a lot of people tune in. They had a lot of conversations. So we'll definitely go back and make sure if you need Monique's information, if you need anything, we'll make sure. And you can actually go into the chat and put your information in there so they can connect with you. But remember, it's known as Monique.com. Please go check out everything about her. This is an amazing story, and she's still, she's helping other people to make sense of their stories as well. So thank you so much, and we will see you next Thursday at 7 o'clock.